What do you think of when you hear the name MG mentioned? Probably either the classic sports cars of the 60s and 70s, the sporty hatchbacks of the 80s, or maybe the mid-engined open-topped roadsters of the 90s. You probably didn't imagine a brand new MG model to be so, well, plain. This has got to be one of the most low-key electric cars you can buy. Of course, for some buyers, the understated looks matched with its practical estate body could be just what they're after. But we're here to find out what it's really like. But before we do, don't forget to subscribe to the Driving Electric YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you're notified when new videos go live. Apart from the very pricey Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo, the MG5 is the only electric estate car you can buy at the moment. And what it lacks in excitement, it makes up for in practicality. It's just a normal, sensible family car with a big boot and a range of up to 250 miles on a single charge. That will appeal to some of you, but if you're after something that stands out, the MG's rivals include the Renault Zoe and Peugeot E2008. Everything from super minis to small SUVs. But the big ace up the MG's sleeve is that it's really cheap. The range starts at just over £25,000, although the car we have here is a higher spec model. So this is the MG5. The exciting styling details include nothing at the front. Down the side you'll notice, no, there's nothing there either. We did say it was a plain looking EV, but this has got to be one of the most anonymous looking cars on sale, isn't it? I can't see anyone falling in love with it because of the way it looks, but I can see the appeal of owning a car no one would look twice at, especially if it's a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing, but more on the performance a bit later. It's actually not totally devoid of flair and fancy touches. Look, there's a silver bar that links the tail lights, eh? But what really matters about MG is what's underneath the metal. MG recently released a larger battery option, meaning you've got the choice between a standard and longer range models. This one we've got here with the smaller 53 kilowatt hour battery will do 214 miles officially. But while we've had it, we've worked out it's doing 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour, which works out at 187 miles of range on a full charge in the real world. The MG5 has a maximum charging speed of 80 kilowatts, which means you can get it from 10 to 80% at the fastest public chargers in 30 to 40 minutes. At a more common 50 kilowatt charger, it'll take just under an hour to do the same. Most people will do their charging at home on a 7.4 kilowatt wallbox charger, where it will take around 8.5 to 9 hours to complete, depending on which version you go for. MG says charging via a 3-pin plug should be reserved for emergencies only, and you can see why. It'll take 24 hours to do so. There's no road tax to pay, it's exempt from the London congestion charge, and every single model is currently eligible for the government's plug-in car grant. Company car drivers could save a fortune running one of these too. The low purchase price and ultra-low tax rate for EVs means it costs almost nothing to run. There's no way you can accuse MG of putting form over function. It's just as plain on the inside as it is on the outside, but you can kind of forgive it a bit more in here because the simplicity means that it's easy to use. Look at the aircon controls, for example. They're real buttons rather than hidden away in a touchscreen menu somewhere. The centre console is as simple as it gets, with this rotary gear selector, some storage and useful cup holders. You then get an 8-inch touchscreen as standard across all the models, which has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But there's also a built-in sat-nav, so you can use that instead of your phone's apps if you wanted. The system isn't as quick or as easy to use as the systems you'd find in a Kia or Hyundai, but it's got all the features you'd need. It looks a bit cheap with this plastic surround. The materials in here are hardly luxurious, but if you keep reminding yourself about how cheap this car is, then you won't mind so much that it's not built like an Audi. The driver's display behind the steering wheel is nice, even though the information isn't as easy to read as it is on other EVs, it's good to have. So basically, you could live with the uninspiring design, as there's very little to moan about. There's lots of headroom and legroom in the back, and although there aren't as many storage cubbies around the cabin as we'd like in a pragmatic car like this, it's practical enough. This exclusive model has leather effect materials, and there's heating for the front seats as well. So even though it looks a bit dowdy, it's not an unpleasant cabin to spend time in. As it's an estate car, the MG5 has a big boot. There's 464 litres with the seats in place, or 1,456 if you fold them down. That means it's more practical than a Nissan Leaf, which has 370 litres of boot space. And because the roof is nice and high all the way along, dogs won't feel cramped in the boot either. There are all sorts of rubber mats and accessories you can buy to accommodate your furry friends too. The sensible styling translates to the MG5's driving experience, which is a shame because MG used to be known for its driving thrills. It seems to have moved so far from the sports cars that made it famous. But there is one thing that moving to electric power has brought back though, and that's performance. There's 154 brake horsepower from the electric motor, which gives a 0 to 62 time of just under 8 seconds in sport mode. There is normal mode and eco mode, which seems to focus more on maximising range. It does feel nippy like all electric cars do though, and that is a lot of fun. The handling doesn't match that though, as it pitches and rolls into bends and the steering's a bit lifeless. We reckon most buyers won't mind that, but what is disappointing is that it's not as comfortable as it should be either. It's smooth enough on the motorway, but when you're driving around town, and let's be honest, that's what electric cars spend most of their time doing, it doesn't deal with bumps in the road very well. The suspension seems to take a while to compose itself after hitting a bump, so you're just left feeling a bit like a nodding dog in the driver's seat. It is nice and easy to drive though, and like most electric vehicles, it's quiet and relaxing, especially in traffic. The windows are quite large, so all-round visibility is good and the controls are straightforward. Depending on what size and shape you are, however, the driving position leaves something to be desired. Even with the seat fully adjusted, if you're a taller driver, then you may still have problems with feeling like you're sat too high and that the steering wheel is on your lap. There are only 2 trim levels in the range, Excite and Exclusive, and each is available in conjunction with the standard or long-range battery. All models have plenty of equipment, including that touchscreen on the dash and the driver's display, 4 USB ports and a leather steering wheel. This exclusive model comes with keyless entry, faux leather, heated seats and automatic wipers. One thing's for certain, you can't argue with the price. So today we found out that the MG5 EV is a car that does what it needs to and nothing more. It's spacious, easy to drive and has good electric range, especially with the bigger battery. But it lacks one thing that makes so many of its electric rivals so successful, and that's desirability. But the point of this car isn't to get your heart racing or mega luxury. It's a cheap, practical, well-equipped electric car for people who don't care about good looks or flashy features. Its biggest strength is value for money, and we reckon that's worth plenty. Head to DrivingElectric.com for all the latest electric car advice, news and reviews, and check us out on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Make sure you subscribe to the Driving Electric YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you're notified when a new video goes live.